Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli.
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome you all to the lesson today.
I'm Shifa Mohammed from Thinadu School.
I'm Asiya Rozandar from Telikilaas School.
I hope you are having a very good time with your family members.
I hope you all are hale and heartily today.
I'm sure you're ready with a pen and a book so that you can note down all the important points.
Let's begin.
Well, before we start the lesson, let's discuss what we are going to learn today. Learning intention. Today we will be learning about importance of coral reefs and threats to the coral reefs. Success criteria. You will be successful if you are able to write at least 3 importance of coral reefs and write at least 2 threats to the coral reefs. Did you know that the coral reefs cover less than 1% of the Earth's surface, and yet they have so many varieties that they are called the rainforest of the sea? Today our topic is coral reefs. You all might have heard about the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, right? In fact, it is the largest reef in the world, which can be seen even from the space. It's not that only Australia they have the reef, even our country we have these beautiful reefs. I found this coral last January on the beach. Actually, this coral, when it is on a reef, it is so colorful and beautiful, but now it is completely dead and white.
Well students, do you know about corals? Corals are the small tiny animals which are known to be as polyps. Please do remember the word polyps. It's new for you, so it is very much essential to remember polyps. Thousands of polyps together make up a group of corals. The speciality of the polyp is they are very delicate in nature, but they are surrounded by a covering, outer covering. Another special feature of the coral is that they hunt during the night times. They catch their prey during the night times. But how do they do this? They have inbuilt tentacles in their bodies which help them to catch the prey. What else I have to tell about this? Whenever you go for diving, be very careful. Do not stamp onto them. They may be very poisonous in nature or they may cause the allergic reactions too. Apart from that, as you know that they are very delicate, but they do come in vibrant colors and they are exceptionally beautiful.
What are corals? Corals are made up of tiny animals called polyps. They are very fragile. Corals feed at night time. They have small stinging tentacles which they use to catch their prey. They can be in many colors like yellow, red, pink, green, blue, orange and even purple.
Do you know students, corals come in different structures. They are divided into two categories, that is soft and hard. Soft structure is known to be flexible, it's very delicate in nature and it can be bended anyway. Hope you might have observed this during the time of diving. The wavy structures which you find deep inside the oceans are the soft structures of corals, whereas the hard structures are very harder in nature as they form the outer covering of the entire body of the corals and they provide the exoskeleton for their survival.
Corals are of two types, soft corals, hard corals. Soft corals are soft, bendable, and often resemble plants and trees, whereas hard corals form the backbone of the coral reef ecosystem, providing a 3D structure. Now you all know that what are soft and hard corals, right? Let's look at how they are formed. Corals come from a family of jellyfish and sea anemone. They create calcium carbonate underneath them layer by layer and keep on growing limestone, which are old corals from millions of years ago. But here's the thing. They can't build reef on their own. It exists because of an incredible partnership between the animals and plant. That's because reef building corals get the majority of the energy from single cell algae that lives inside the coral polyp, which are called zooxanthellae. Zooxanthellae, that's a new word. That's the name of that algae that lives inside the coral polyp. Now do you know what is zooxanthellae? Now let's look at how coral reefs are made. Coral reefs are built by coral polyps. Coral polyps that build the reef survive by forming a partnership with microscopic living things called zooxanthellae. Coral gets oxygen from these microscopic algae. Furthermore, as coral colonies grow, they form reefs. Coral protects these soft bodies by secreting layers of calcium carbonate beneath them by building hard external skeleton.
Well, students, let's now discuss about the important factors for the survival of corals. There are 5 important factors for the survival of corals: sunlight, clear water, warm water, salty water, and clean water.
What do coral reefs need to survive? First is sunlight. Corals depend on the zooxanthellae and these algae needs sunlight to survive. So corals need sunlight. Let's proceed on to the next one, that is clear water. Corals need clear water that lets sunlight through it so that zooxanthellae can photosynthesize producing oxygen. The next factor is warm water temperature. Reef building corals require warm water conditions to survive. Corals generally live in water temperature in between 20 to 32 degrees centigrade. Coming on to the next factor, salt water. Corals require a certain balance in the ratio of salt to water. This is why corals don't live in areas where rivers drain fresh water into the ocean. Last but not the least is a clean water. Corals are sensitive to pollution and sediments. Sediments are the particles that settle at the bottom. Sediments can create cloudy water. It deposits on the corals, blocking out the sun and harming the polyps. Now let's recall it. Once again, what do coral reefs need to survive? First is the sunlight, second is the clear water, third is the warm water temperature, fourth is the salt water, fifth, last but not the least, is the clean water.
Why do you think the coral reefs are so important to us? Apart from being a beautiful sight, it also plays an important role in the marine ecosystem. The reef act like an excellent water filtration system. Do you know that? It also provides shelter and home for so many creatures. You will see fishes and eels popping their heads out of the small holes in the corals. Have you seen that in Parkway program? The coral reef act as a barrier from strong waves and also protect our white sandy beaches from getting eroded.
Erosion is one of the main challenges and the biggest problem, one of the biggest problem in the country, and we are having a difficult time to mitigate to the impacts of erosion. We have always lived with erosion in our islands, and it's a part of natural process. We have one season erosion in one part of the island and aggregation in other side. But now we are facing very severe erosions, and island actually losing some big chunks of land.
Due to climate change, there's an increase in frequency of storms in the region. Surges from these storms cause flooding in the islands, which destroys the natural sand biomes, leading to erosion. Without the natural protection, the erosion gets severe day by day.
Not only that, some of the species of corals are being used for medicinal purposes and have been found helpful even in treating cancer. Isn't that great? Just take a guess. How many people have visited our country last year? Any guesses? More than 1 million tourists visited our country just to enjoy the beauty of our coral reefs.
We all know that coral reefs are very important to us. So now let's look at why it is so important to us. Coral reefs are valuable habitat for fish and variety of other organisms. Coral reefs are incredible in protecting seashores from erosion. Furthermore, coral reefs are an important food source for many people. Compounds found in coral reefs are being used in human medicine, including some that treats cancer. And also, coral reefs are favorite tourist destination in our country, which boost our economy.
Now that you have heard about the importance of the coral reefs, let's discuss about the threats to corals.
Threats to the coral reefs. Coral reefs are facing numerous local and global threats due to human activities like climate change, habitat destruction, water pollution. Even though the reefs have so many benefits for us, we humans have biggest threat to our reefs. What are the threats on the coral reefs, or what threats coral reefs are facing? Remember, we had learnt about climate change or global warming. It's not limited to air and land, but it's affecting the oceans also. Even the tiny change in the temperature of our ocean can highly affect on coral reefs. You might have seen the reefs turning pale white in color. This process is called coral bleaching, and this happens due to the change in the water temperature. This affected Maldives early mid 2016. The affected areas of Maldives were Erie Atoll and North Malay Atoll. The second biggest threat is habitat destruction. The major cause of habitat destruction is due to unethical fishing and overfishing. When people remove corals deliberately or non deliberately, knowingly or unknowingly, they are harming the corals. Next time when you go for diving, do not step onto it and kindly save the corals as much as you can. The third is water pollution, which also plays a major role as a threat to coral reefs. Throwing of the plastics and litters into the ocean. You all might have gone for beach cleaning programs where you might have found plastic bottles and plastic litter everywhere. The next is discharge of chemicals through the factories. Discharge of chemicals to the factories can also kill coral reefs. Now that you have understood the importance of coral reefs, don't you think it's really necessary or important to protect the coral reefs?
But the battle is not yet over. If we can give more time to our reef to recover by cutting down pollution and reduce global warming, the generation that will come later will thank us for protecting these creatures that makes the ocean so colorful and beautiful.
Now let's watch a video for the recap of the lesson.
Coral reefs. Their bright, vivid colors can be seen in tropical ocean waters around the globe. Beyond their brilliant appearance lies a hidden significance. Coral are animals. Though they may look like colorful plants, coral are in fact made up of tiny animals called polyps. These invertebrates can range from the size of a pinhead to a bit larger than a basketball. Each polyp consists of a soft sac-like body topped by a mouth covered in stinging tentacles. To protect their soft bodies and add support, the polyps secrete limestone skeletons or calicles. Corals are megabuilders. Polyp calicles connect to one another, creating a colony that acts as a single organism. As colonies grow over hundreds and thousands of years, they join with other colonies and become reefs that can grow to hundreds of miles long. The largest coral reef is Australia's Great Barrier Reef, which began growing about 20,000 years ago. Coral reefs are some of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. Though they cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, coral reefs are home to 25% of all marine creatures. It's been estimated that up to 2 million species inhabit coral reefs, rivaling the biodiversity of the rainforest. The reefs provide rich habitat that helps protect young fish as they grow. Coral are translucent. Coral reefs get their rainbow of colors from algae or zooxanthellae that live in their tissue. Though corals use their tentacles to capture some food, most of their food comes from the algae they house. When coral becomes stressed by pollution or other factors, they evict their algae. Coral bleaching results, revealing corals' white skeletons. Coral provide a window to the past. As coral grow, their limestone skeletons form layers, similar to tree rings, that vary in composition and thickness based on ocean conditions at the time. With some coral reefs growing for thousands or even millions of years, scientists can study these layers to reveal what the Earth's climate may have been like in the ancient past. Unfortunately, climate change is putting corals' future in danger, along with the millions of species that inhabit the reefs and the 500 million people that rely on reef fish for food. Warming waters result in prolonged coral bleaching that kill coral reefs or leave them vulnerable to other threats. Without significant action on climate change, our oceans could lose many of their colorful reefs by the end of the century.
We all know that coral reefs are one of the most important inhabitants of shallow tropical oceans. The coral reefs provide food for varieties of creatures, including the turtles. Those turtles, they rely on food which grow on coral reefs.
The reef also provides a place for algae and sponges to grow. This provides food for a variety of creatures. For example, the sea turtle. The hawksbill sea turtle, like most other kinds of sea turtles, is endangered. Hunted for their meat and for their shells, trapped in commercial fishing nets to drown, and sickened by pollution, their populations are declining. These turtles rely on the food that grows on the coral reef. And the reef, in turn, relies on the turtles. It's a partnership that benefits both creatures. The turtles get a reliable source of food. The reef system gets a less obvious advantage. Without the turtles coming to eat the algae and sponges, they would overgrow the reef, preventing the coral from growing and expanding. With lowered turtle populations in oceans worldwide, the health of coral reef systems will suffer. It is important for people to do our best to protect these peaceful reptiles, not just for their sakes, but for the health of the entire coral ecosystem.
Now let's check how much you know about corals. Let's do a quiz. Are you ready for the quiz? Question number 1. Where are coral reefs found? Options are option A, warm, clear, shallow waters. Option B, inland lakes and rivers. Option C, deep, dark, cool waters. Option D, far off shores in the middle of the ocean. What do you think is the correct answer? Option A, warm, clear, shallow waters. Yes, you are correct. Let's go to question number 2. The coral polyps that build the reef survived by forming a partnership with. Options are A. Mold, B. Yeast, C. Zooxanthellae, D. Seaweed. What do you think is the correct answer? Yes, it's option C. Zooxanthellae. Can you remember the new word that we learned today? Question number 3. The sand from the sea and land accumulates on the reef and form option A, lagoon, option B, coral island, option C, algae, option D, none of these. What do you think is the correct answer? Yes, it's coral island. That's where we live in. Question number 4. What makes the coral reef so important to our country? Option A, prevents erosion. B, promotes tourism. C, provides food. D, all of these. What's your guess? All of these are important to our coral reefs, right? Next is question number 5. When corals undergo bleaching, their color changes to option A, white, option B, brown, option C, green, option D, black. What's your answer? It changes to white. Can you recollect the color of the coral that I found on the beach? It was completely bleached and turned white. Question number 6. Coral reefs are facing numerous local and global threats because of options are option A, climate change, B, habitat destruction, C, water pollution, D, all of these. What's your answer? All of these. All of these are problems caused by human. Now that you have got an idea about coral reefs, we want you to write a paragraph on the importance of coral reef and threats to coral reefs.
Remember to include 3 importance of the coral reefs and 2 threats, and you can submit this on Google Classroom.
More than any country in the world, we need to protect our reef since our life and prosperity depends on it.
We hope you enjoyed learning coral reefs.
Inshallah, we'll meet you again with another interesting science lesson.
Till then, stay home, stay safe.
Remember to wash your hands. Bye-bye.